Hi, my name's Roy Christie, and I've been fishing for about 45 years. I'm making flies for about 40 years. This particular fly that you're going to see me make in a minute is a reverse parachute fly. The reverse parachute is designed to sink the tippet whenever it lands on the surface, and it then sits hanging from its parachute in the surface of the water, which gives a really clean presentation. It's really attractive for trout and grayling, and it can be used for caddisflies, midges, and as in this case, mayfly emergers. I love it because the fish do. Now I will show you how to tie a reverse parachute. We start by building the base on the rear 2/5 of the hook shank, winding a little bit into the bend on a larval hook. The whole purpose of this fly is to be able to sink the tippet. The first stage is to lay a bed of thread where the parachute hackle will eventually be built, and then lay a base of thread all the way back to the eye of the hook in open or tight turns, in this case open turns. At the eye of the hook we build a little ball of thread and take a feather from which we remove about 5 or 6 fibres to use as a tail. The tail is tied in over the eye of the hook, so it will look like the tails of the nymph which has just struggled up from the bottom of the water. Cut off the butts, tie in about 10 inches, 9 inches of monofilament, 5 pound or so, and then we want to create the body. The monofilament will be used as a rib and also to create the parachute post, and the body itself is made of a mixture of furs. Dub the furs onto the silk and take a turn round behind the rib and then back up the body to cover the nylon that we're going to be using for all these various purposes. The nylon rib is then brought from the rear of the hook in about 7-8 turns to a point where the abdomen of the imitation will meet the thorax, and we tie in the rib and the original piece of nylon, so all is now secure, at least up to this point. We then bind down the nylon, which we are now going to use to make a little loop where we're going to put the supporting hackle on the fly. Then continue down to the eye to bind down the nylon, and then return to just in front of the loop and attach the hackle which will support the fly at the surface. We tie it in with a figure-of-8 wrap at the bottom of the loop so it's exactly in line, and then tie the rest of the feather stem along the hook and remove the excess. Bind down the last piece of the stem and then come back to a point past the loop, and we dub on the fur for the thorax of the fly. Again, this is a mixture of various colours of furs which is dubbed onto the thread, and we will wind that around the rear of the hook to present the thorax of the emerging insect, in this case a mayfly. We then wind the thorax dubbing around the base of the loop back towards the centre of the fly. When we get to here we can put a whip finish in, or a half hitch or a clove hitch like this, to secure everything, make sure it doesn't come apart, and then cover the rest of the thorax with another bit of dubbing to complete the body of the emerging insect. and whip finish the fly at the center, just here. To make it even more secure, you can put a drop of varnish on the thread before you pull it in. Not too much or it will stain the fur. And clip off the excess thread. We now have a fly, but we need to add the hackle to make it float. The hackle is wound round the post. Whenever a fish takes the fly and breaks the hackle, it will spring out. So in order to avoid that, we wind the hackle round one side only of the nylon, bearing in mind that one turn around the nylon is equal to about half a turn around a standard hook, so you need twice as many turns. So maybe 10 turns, 12 turns on here to get the hackle on, and then pull through all around one side. You can push the hackle down now to the base of the loop. Hold it between your fingers and pull the loop through to finish the fly. Which is now indestructible by virtue of its construction and will hang from the surface. And most importantly, it will sink the tippet which the fly is attached to. When the fly sits in the surface on its hackle, the body is underneath, so that the tippet that it's attached to is sunk and doesn't leave a shadow across the surface of the water. This catches lots and lots of fish. The end.